Taman walked through the long halls of the council station. His black diplomatic suit was perfect. Not a single wrinkle showed anywhere. Behind him, 3 other humans followed. Hyejin carried a data pad with all their trade requests. Woo-sung wore the uniform of a ship captain. Young Sora held recording equipment. The station was huge. Metal walls stretched up high above their heads. Lights glowed blue and green along the ceiling. Alien workers moved past them. Some looked like tall birds with 4 arms. Others had gray skin and no hair. A few looked almost like humans, but with purple eyes that seemed too large. Taman smiled at each alien they passed. He bowed his head slightly. This was the polite way humans always acted around other species. For 50 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. For 50 years, they had been quiet and helpful. Remember, Taman said softly to his team. We are here to ask nicely. We want better trade deals. We want access to their technology, but we ask with respect. Hyejin nodded. She had been a military officer before becoming a diplomat. Her job now was to help with negotiations. She was good at reading people, even alien people. The council members seem different today, she said, more dismissive than usual. They reached the main council chamber. The doors were massive. They slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, 7 alien species sat at a curved table. Each seat was designed for different body types. The chair in the center was the largest. Chairman Veltharion sat there. He looked like a giant lizard wearing robes. To his left sat Counselor Zeph Kallis. His species had blue skin and tentacles instead of hair. His eyes never looked directly at the humans. To the right, Counselor Thymos tapped claws on the table. Her people looked like insects but walked on 2 legs. Ah, the humans arrive, Chairman Veltharion said. His voice was deep and rumbling. Please take your seats. Let us begin this meeting. Taman noticed how the chairman paused before saying meeting, as if the word tasted bad, but he kept smiling. Thank you, honored chairman. We are grateful for this opportunity to speak with the council. The humans sat at a small table facing the larger council table. Taman placed his hands flat on the surface. This showed he had no weapons. It was another sign of respect. We come today with several requests, Taman began. First, we would like to discuss expanding our trade routes. Second, we hope to gain access to improved medical technology. Third, we request permission to establish new colonies in the outer rim sectors. Counselor Zeph Kallis made a sound like a snort. More requests from the pet species, he muttered, but he said it loud enough for everyone to hear. Taman's smile stayed in place. But Hyejin saw his left hand make a tiny fist, only for a second. Then it relaxed again. I'm sorry, Counselor, Taman said. I didn't catch that. Could you repeat what you said? Nothing important, Zeph Kallis replied. Please continue with your requests. Chairman Veltharion leaned back in his chair. Humans have been asking for the same things for months, years even. What makes you think our answer will change? We hope that our continued service to the Council shows our worth, Taman replied. Human workers have built 17 space stations for Council members. We have provided food supplies to 12 different worlds. We have always been reliable partners. Reliable, yes, said Counselor Thymos. Her voice clicked when she spoke. But that is what servants do. They serve reliably. This time, both Taman and Hyejin made small fists. Sora noticed too. She began recording everything more carefully. With respect, Counselor, Taman said, humans are not servants. We are members of the Galactic Council. We have rights under the Charter. Rights? Zeph Kallis laughed. The sound was ugly. You have the rights we give you. Nothing more. Captain. Woo-sung shifted in his chair. He had been quiet until now. Perhaps we should discuss this more calmly, he suggested. The humans and their endless politeness, said another counselor. This one looked like a walking tree with many eyes. Always, so careful not to offend, always so grateful for scraps, Taemin's jaw tightened. Just a little. Just enough for his team to notice. "We believe in diplomatic solutions," he said. "Violence and threats are the tools of primitive species." "How convenient," Zefkalis said, "since you have no other tools to use." The insults were getting worse. Hijin watched Taemin carefully. She had known him for 10 years. She had seen him angry exactly twice. Both times planets had changed ownership afterward. "Let me be clear about something," Chairman Veltharion said. He stood up. His full height was impressive, nearly 3 meters tall. "Humans exist at the pleasure of this council. You have a few farming worlds, some mining operations, a handful of merchant ships. You are useful for manual labor and basic manufacturing. Nothing more. You seem to forget your place," Zefkalis added. "Perhaps it's time for a reminder." Taemin stood up slowly. His smile was still there, but something had changed about it. Something cold crept into his eyes. "Our place?" he asked quietly. "Yes," Zefkalis said. He seemed to enjoy himself now. "Your place is to do as you're told, to be grateful for what you're given, to remember that you are pets. Useful pets, but pets nonetheless." The chamber became very quiet. So quiet that everyone could hear the hum of the air recycling systems. So quiet that the soft beep of Sora's recording equipment seemed loud. Taemin looked at each council member in turn. His smile never wavered. But his eyes had become something different, something the aliens had never seen before. "Pets," he repeated softly. "That's an interesting word choice, Counselor." Hijin touched a small device on her belt. It looked like a standard communication unit, but when she pressed it, a signal went out, a signal that traveled very far, a signal that reached ships the Council didn't know existed. On board the ship Harmony's Edge, Captain Wusung's second-in-command received the signal. Lieutenant Sora's sister, Bora, looked at the message and smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Ma'am," she said to the ship's real captain. "We just received a Protocol 7 authorization." Captain Jin-A looked up from her command chair. She was small and quiet, like most human diplomats, but her ship was not small, and it was definitely not quiet when it needed to speak. "Protocol 7, she asked. "Are you certain?" "Confirmed, Captain. Ambassador Taemin has authorized the disabling of politeness mode." Jin-A stood up. Around the bridge, other officers looked up from their stations. They had been waiting for this signal for a very long time. "Signal the fleet," Jin-A said. "All units prepare for tactical demonstration. Non-lethal force authorized. Make them understand without making them dead." Back in the council chamber, Taemin was still smiling. But now he reached into his jacket. The aliens tensed, expecting a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a different communication device. "Before we continue," he said, "I think there's something you should know about humans." He pressed a button on the device. The chamber's main screen activated. It showed the space around the council station. Empty space, according to all sensors. "What you see there," Taemin said, "is what your sensors tell you is there. Nothing but empty space and a few human merchant ships." He pressed another button. The screen flickered. Suddenly, the empty space was full of ships. Huge ships, sleek ships, ships that made the Council's finest warships look like toys. "This," Taemin said, his smile growing wider, "is what's actually there." The Council members stared at the screen. Hundreds of human ships surrounded the station. Ships that had been invisible moments before. Ships that were now very, very visible. Chairman Veltharion's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "Impossible," he whispered. "Our sensors see exactly what we want them to see." Taemin finished. "Did you really think a species that conquered its own world through endless warfare would stay harmless?" The aliens were beginning to understand that something had changed. Something important. Something that would reshape their understanding of the galaxy itself. And in that moment, Taemin's polite smile became something else entirely. Something that promised interesting times ahead. The council chamber felt colder now. Not because the temperature had changed, but because the mood had shifted completely. The alien council members stared at the screen showing hundreds of human ships that had appeared from nowhere. Tai Min stood calmly at his table. His hands were still flat on the surface. His smile was still in place. But everything about him seemed different now, like a mask had been removed to show what was underneath. I believe there was some confusion about humanity's status, he said. His voice was still polite, still diplomatic, but there was steel underneath, the silk now. Perhaps we should clear that up. Chairman Veltharion tried to stand taller. His lizard-like features showed both anger and fear. This is some kind of trick. Hologram technology. You're trying to intimidate us with fake images. He-Jin stepped forward. She touched her datapad and spoke into it. Captain Jin-A, the Council believes our fleet is a hologram. Could you please demonstrate otherwise? A new voice filled the chamber. It came from the speakers that the Council used for station communications. But the voice was human, female, and very calm. Ambassador, this is Captain Jin-A of the Fifth Fleet. Would you like a gentle demonstration or a more convincing one? Taemin tilted his head as if thinking. I think gentle will suffice for now, Captain. Understood. Beginning minimal power. Demonstration. The lights in the council chamber flickered. Just for a moment. Then the artificial gravity shifted slightly. Every alien in the room felt their weight change for 3 seconds before returning to normal. What was that? Counselor. Themos clicked nervously. That, said the voice from the speakers, was our ship's targeting system locking onto this station's main power grid and gravity generators. We're not actually doing anything harmful, just saying hello. Counselor Zefkalis slammed his tentacles on the table. This is an act of war. We demand you withdraw immediately. Taemin's smile became wider. War? Oh no, Counselor. This is still diplomacy. When humans go to war, it looks very different. He gestured to Sora, who activated another device. The main screen changed again. Now it showed archived footage. Battle scenes from across the galaxy. Ships exploding in silent flashes. Entire fleets being torn apart by weapons that seemed to bend space itself. These are some of our previous diplomatic missions, Taemin explained. When species chose not to negotiate peacefully. The footage showed human ships moving like dancers. Precise, deadly, efficient. They moved in patterns that the Council's military experts had never seen before. Formations that seemed to predict enemy movements before they happened. The Catherian Empire, He-Jin said, pointing to one battle scene. They made the mistake of attacking our research stations. They thought humans would be easy targets. On screen, massive alien battleships fired at smaller human vessels. The human ships seemed to dance between the energy beams. Then they fired back. The alien ships simply stopped existing. Where are the Catherians now? Asked Chairman Veltharion. Quietly. Relocated, Taemin replied, to more suitable worlds, under human supervision. They're much happier now, much more polite. Another scene played. This one showed ground combat. Human soldiers fighting against alien warriors twice their size. The aliens had natural armor and weapons built into their bodies. The humans had simple equipment and tactics that looked almost primitive, until the fighting started. Humans are smaller than most species, He-Jin observed. Weaker in many ways, but we learned something very important during our evolution. The human soldiers on screen moved like they shared one mind. When one was attacked, 5 others appeared to help. When enemies grouped together, humans split them apart. When enemies scattered, humans herded them back together. We learned that the strongest predator isn't always the biggest one, Taemin said. Sometimes it's the smartest one, the one that hunts in packs. The battle footage ended with alien warriors surrendering, not because they were defeated, but because they realized they could never win. The humans had turned war into a science. This is impossible, Counselor Zefkalis said, but his voice was smaller now, less confident. Human space consists of 12 agricultural worlds and a few mining stations. We've seen the surveys. You've seen exactly what we wanted you to see, said Captain Jinneh's voice through the speakers. Would you like to see what human space actually looks like? The screen changed again. This time it showed a map of the galaxy. Small red dots marked Council territory. Blue dots showed where the Council thought human space was located, a tiny cluster of worlds near the galactic rim. Then new dots appeared, green ones, thousands of them. They spread across multiple galactic arms. They showed massive industrial complexes, fortress worlds, research facilities, and shipyards that could build vessels larger than most Council space stations. Impossible, Chairman Veltharian whispered. Improbable, Taman corrected. But quite real. Humans have been very busy for the past 50 years. More details appeared on the map. Production figures scrolled past too fast to read completely. But the numbers that could be seen were staggering. Human industrial capacity was revealed to be hundreds of times larger than anything the Council had imagined. Why? Counselor Thymos asked. Her clicking voice was barely audible. Why hide this? Why pretend to be weak? He-Jin answered. Because we learned something important about galactic civilization. Most species expand through conquest. They take what they want by force. This creates fear. Fear creates enemies. Enemies create wars. Humans prefer a different approach, Taman continued. We expand by invitation. We'd rather be asked to join communities than force our way in. But, said Captain Jinneh's voice, when the invitation process involves insults and condescension, the politeness mode disables. Sora finished quietly. A new voice joined the conversation. Male, older, with an authority that made even the aliens pay attention. Council members, this is Admiral Dong Hyun of the Human Defense Command. I'm currently en route to your location with a small escort force. We should arrive in approximately 6 hours. The map on screen highlighted a section of space near the Council station. Ships were moving toward them. Lots of ships. How small is this escort force? Chairman Veltharian asked weakly. Only 3 battle groups, Admiral Dong Hyun replied. About 800 ships total. The flagships are the diplomatic immunity and the gentle persuasion. I thought the names were appropriate for the situation. Taman looked around the chamber. The aliens were beginning to understand how much their world had changed in the past few minutes. Everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. Now then, he said, returning to his seat. Shall we restart our negotiations? I believe you'll find that humanity's requests deserve more serious consideration. He pulled out a new datapad. This one contained very different information than the first one. We're prepared to discuss technology sharing agreements, human innovations in manufacturing, medicine, and defense systems. Some of our military technologies might be particularly interesting to Council members. What kind of military technologies? Counselor Zevkalis asked. His earlier arrogance was completely gone. Oh, the usual things, Hyojin said casually. Stealth systems that make ships invisible to any known sensor technology. Weapons that can disable planets without harming the people living on them. Defensive shields that turn enemy fire into power for our own systems. And of course, Taman added, our expertise in what humans call pest control. We've found that some species respond better to firm guidance than to polite requests. The implications of that statement hung in the air like a storm cloud. Every Council member understood the message. Humanity had revealed itself as the apex predator of the galaxy, and they were offering to be friends instead of conquerors. But that offer came with conditions, and those conditions were no longer negotiable. That day of treating humans like useful pets was over. The day of respecting them as equals had begun. Whether the Council liked it or not, the silence in the Council chamber stretched like a tight wire. Each alien Council member stared at the humans with new eyes that were beginning to see predators where they had once seen prey. Taman opened his new datapad. The screen glowed softly as he scrolled through files. Since we're being more honest now, he said, let me share some additional information about humanity's place in the galaxy. The main display screen changed again. This time it showed a timeline. 50 years of galactic history, but from a very different perspective than the Council's official records. 50 years ago, humans made first contact with the Vorthak Empire, Taemin began. You remember the Vorthaks, don't you? They controlled 17 systems before they mysteriously vanished. Counselor Themos clicked nervously. The Vorthaks were destroyed by a plague, a natural disaster. Not exactly, Hijin said. She stood and moved to the display. The Vorthaks made the mistake of treating the first human diplomats as slaves. They put our people in chains and demanded tribute from Earth. The timeline showed what happened next. Human ships appearing throughout Vorthak space, not attacking at first, just watching, studying, learning. We spent 6 months cataloging their strengths and weaknesses, Taemin continued. We learned their language, their culture, their military tactics. We even learned about their biology. The plague that destroyed them wasn't natural, Sora said quietly. It was specifically designed to target Vorthak genetics, very precise, very efficient, very humane, actually. They simply fell asleep and never woke up. Chairman Veltharian's scaled skin had turned a pale green color. You committed genocide? We committed pest control, Taemin corrected. The Vorthaks were a species that survived by enslaving others. They had destroyed 12 different civilizations before we met them. Removing them made the galaxy safer for everyone else. The display showed more examples. The Krex Dominion, which had tried to use humans as living weapons in their wars. One day they were a mighty empire. The next day, their fleets were drifting, empty in space while their crews were relocated to agricultural worlds. What happened to the crews? Asked Counselor Zefkalis. They're farmers now, Hyojin replied. Quite good ones, actually. Amazing how peaceful a species becomes when they're given meaningful work and proper supervision. This is monstrous, Thymos clicked. You're talking about enslaving entire civilizations. Are we? Taemin asked. The former Krex warriors have full medical care, education for their children, and comfortable living conditions. They work 40 hours per week growing food that feeds multiple worlds. They have weekends off and 3 weeks of vacation every year. That's better treatment than most species give their own people, Sora added. Another example appeared on screen. The hegemony of Zilnath, a species that had declared war on humanity after humans refused to hand over their terraforming technology. The hegemony lasted exactly 18 days after declaring war, Taemin said. Would you like to see the battle footage? No, Chairman Veltharian said quickly. I think we understand. Good. Because the point isn't the battles we've won. The point is the battles we've prevented. The display changed to show current galactic politics, trade routes, diplomatic relationships, and territorial boundaries. Everything looked peaceful and orderly. 17 species in this galaxy have expansion plans that involve conquering their neighbors, Hyojin explained. 3 major powers are developing weapons of mass destruction. 5 civilizations are planning to restart old wars once they think they're strong enough. None of them will follow through with these plans, Taemin said, because they know we're watching. They know what happens to species that choose violence over diplomacy. Captain Janae's voice returned through the chamber speakers. Council, members, you might be interested to know that we have monitoring stations in every major star system in the galaxy. Nothing happens without us knowing about it. Monitoring stations? Veltharian asked weakly. Oh yes, said a new voice. This one belonged to someone the Council had never heard before. I'm Commander Minho of Human Intelligence Services. We've been watching all of you for quite some time. The main screen split to show multiple images. Secret military facilities, on Council worlds, hidden weapons research, classified communications between Council members discussing humanity's future. For example, Commander Minho continued, we know that Counselor Zefkalis has been developing biological weapons targeted at human genetics. We've been watching that research for 3 years. Zefkalis turned blue and white at the same time. That research is purely theoretical. Academic. Theoretical research that's been tested on human prisoners of war, Minho replied coldly. Prisoners taken during border skirmishes that the council claims never happened. The chamber became very cold. Taemin's smile disappeared completely for the first time since the meeting began. Prisoners? He asked softly. 17 humans captured over the past 2 years, Minho confirmed. All reported as missing in space. All actually being held in Counselor Zeph-Callis' research facility on Thetis Prime. Hyejin moved closer to the council table. Her diplomatic demeanor was gone now. What replaced it was something that made the aliens instinctively back away. "Where are our people now?" she asked. Zeph-Callis tried to speak but only made choking sounds. "Commander Minho," Taemin said, his voice deadly quiet. "Please locate our missing personnel." "Already done, Ambassador. Extraction team is en route. The prisoners are alive, but they've been through a lot." "I see." Taemin turned back to Zeph-Callis. "Counselor, you've just escalated this situation considerably." "It was research," Zeph-Callis finally managed to say. "We needed to understand human biology in case you needed to kill us more efficiently?" Sora asked. The main screen now showed real-time footage from the research facility. Human soldiers in black armor were moving through corridors. They moved like shadows, silent and unstoppable. Guards fell unconscious without ever seeing what hit them. "That's Strike Team Delta," Captain Ginny explained. "They specialize in hostage rescue, very good at their job." The footage showed the team reaching a detention area. 17 humans in medical gowns were being carefully evacuated. They looked weak, but alive. "Your people are safe, Commander," Minho reported. "Medical teams are standing by." Taemin nodded. Then he looked at Zeph-Callis with eyes like winter storms. "Counselor, you've just learned something important about humans. We are extremely patient. We will tolerate insults, condescension, even economic discrimination. But there is one thing we will never tolerate." "What's that?" Veltharion asked, though he clearly didn't want to know the answer. "Harm to our people," Hyejin answered. "Individual, humans matter to us. Each life is precious. When someone hurts our family, the politeness mode doesn't just disable," Taemin finished. "It gets permanently deleted." The display screen showed new images. Human ships moving toward Thetis Prime. Not the sleek vessels from before, but something different. Darker. More. Angular. Ships designed for one purpose only. "Those are our justice ships," Sora explained. "They're not meant for diplomacy." "What do you want?" Zeph-Callis whispered. "What I want," Taemin said, "is for you to understand that everything has changed. The age of treating humans as inferior species is over. The age of galactic peace through human oversight has begun." "You're threatening to conquer the galaxy," Thymos accused. "Conquer?" Taemin laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Counselor, we already have conquered the galaxy. We've just been polite enough to let you think you were still in charge." The truth hit the aliens like a physical blow. Everything they had believed about galactic politics was a lie. Humanity hadn't been the junior partner in galactic civilization. They had been the silent rulers, managing events from behind the scenes. "For 50 years we've prevented wars, stopped genocides, and maintained peace," Hyejin said. "We've done it quietly without taking credit, because we preferred cooperation to domination. But cooperation requires mutual respect," Taemin added, "and respect requires understanding. Today you've gained that understanding." The council members looked at each other. They were beginning to realize that their choices were very limited. Submit to human authority or face the consequences that other hostile species had faced. It wasn't really a choice at all. The council chamber had become a courtroom. Not officially, but everyone could feel the change in the air. The aliens who had been so confident an hour ago now sat like defendants waiting for their sentence. Taemin walked slowly around the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the silence. Each step seemed to count down to something final. "Let me tell you a story," he said, "about a species that learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them every single day." The main screen showed Earth, but not the peaceful world the council thought they knew. This was ancient Earth. Storms that could level mountains. Earthquakes that split continents. ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Early humans had no natural weapons, Taman continued. No claws, no fangs, no armor. They weren't the strongest, fastest, or largest predators on their world. Images flashed across the screen. Massive creatures with teeth like swords, flying hunters with wingspans wider than starships, ocean monsters that could swallow small islands. But humans had something else. They had imagination, and they had each other. The images changed to show early human hunters, small groups working together to bring down creatures 10 times their size, using tools, tactics, and teamwork to overcome impossible odds. We learned to think beyond ourselves, Hyejin added. 1 human might fail, 2 humans could succeed, 100 humans could reshape the world. But the most important lesson, Sora said, was that survival meant helping each other. Humans who worked together lived. Humans who fought each other died. Taman stopped walking and faced the council. When we reached the stars, we brought that lesson with us. We prefer cooperation to conflict. We'd rather build than destroy. But we never forgot the other lesson. Commander Minho's voice added through the speakers. Sometimes cooperation isn't possible. Sometimes you meet predators who only understand strength. New images appeared on screen. Species that had tried to dominate humanity in the early years of space exploration. Pirates who had attacked human colonies. Empires that had demanded tribute. The first rule of dealing with humans, Taman said, is that we always prefer peaceful solutions. We will negotiate, compromise, and make deals that benefit everyone. The second rule, Hyejin continued, is that we never forget when someone tries to hurt us or our allies. The third rule, Sora finished, is that we never make the same mistake twice. Chairman Veltharion tried to speak. His voice came out as a croak. What do you want from us? What we've always wanted, Taman replied. Partnership. Mutual respect. Fair treatment for all species under council law. And in return? Councillor Themos asked. In return, the galaxy continues to enjoy peace and prosperity under human protection. Protection from what? Zefkalis demanded. The screen changed again. This time it showed space beyond the galactic rim. Dark shapes moved between the stars. Massive vessels that dwarfed anything the Council had ever seen. There are things in the dark between galaxies, Commander Minho explained. Species that view all life as food. Machines that consume entire star systems for raw materials. Entities that exist only to spread death and chaos. Human long-range sensors detected them 30 years ago, Taman said. They're still far away, but they're coming. The leading edge of their scouts should reach our galaxy in about 200 years. The aliens stared at the images. Ships the size of moons, swarms of mechanical hunters, things that looked like living nightmares. The only reason you're not already fighting for your lives, Hyejin said, is because humans have been preparing for their arrival, building defenses, developing weapons, creating the infrastructure needed to protect this entire galaxy. Every human colony you thought was just a farming world, Sora added, is actually a fortress. Every trade route we've established is a supply line. Every diplomatic agreement we've made has been preparing for the war that's coming. Taman returned to his seat. So yes, humanity has been deceptive about our true capabilities. But we've been deceptive in service of protecting everyone in this galaxy, including all of you. Then why reveal the truth now? Veltharion asked. Because the time for gentle guidance is ending, Taman replied. What's coming will require unity, total cooperation between all species. And that's impossible while some council members think humans are junior partners who can be pushed around. Captain, Jinei's voice returned. Ambassador, Admiral Donghyun's fleet has arrived. He's requesting permission to dock and address the council directly. Permission granted, Taman said. 20 minutes later, the chamber doors opened again. A new human entered. Admiral Donghyun was older than the others, with gray hair and scars on his hands. He wore a simple military uniform with rank insignia the aliens didn't recognize. Behind him walked 6 more humans. Each wore different uniforms. Each carried themselves like a person who had seen terrible things and survived them. "Council members," Admiral Dong-hyun said, "I am the Supreme Commander of Human Military Forces. These are my department heads. Strategy, intelligence, logistics, research, diplomacy, and special operations." He looked around the chamber with eyes that had seen entire civilizations rise and fall. "Ambassador Taemin has been very polite in his explanations," the Admiral continued. "I'm going to be more direct." The main screen showed a map of the galaxy divided into defensive sectors. Each sector contained thousands of human ships and installations. "Humanity has been the real government of this galaxy for 50 years, Admiral Dong-hyun said. "The Council has been allowed to continue existing because it serves a useful purpose. You handle local disputes, trade regulations, and cultural exchange. But the real decisions," said the woman identified as the Strategy Department head, "have always been made by humans. Every major conflict that's been prevented," added the intelligence chief, "was stopped by human intervention. Every famine that's been avoided," the logistics commander said, "was solved by human supply networks. Every technological advancement," the research director added, "was guided by human scientists. Every diplomatic crisis that's been resolved," said the diplomacy representative, "was managed by human negotiators working behind the scenes. And every threat that's been eliminated," the special operations commander finished, "was handled by humans you never knew existed." Admiral Dong-hyun nodded to each of his subordinates. "The question now is whether the Council wants to continue serving as humanity's local representatives, or whether you'd prefer to be replaced by direct human administration." "Replaced?" Thymos clicked in alarm. "It would be more efficient," the strategy head said. "Humans could handle all Council functions directly. No more debates, no more political games, no more confusion about who's really in charge." "But we prefer the current system," Admiral Dong-hyun said. "Different species understand their own people better than humans do. You're more effective at local governance than we would be." "However," Taemin added, standing up again, "that system only works if everyone understands the real power structure. Today's education session none was necessary to ensure future cooperation." The Admiral pulled out a data pad. "Council members, you each have a choice to make. You can continue serving as regional governors under human oversight, with full respect for your dignity and authority, or you can retire to comfortable lives on worlds of your choosing." "What about our species independence?" Veltharion asked. "Your species independence was never real," the intelligence chief replied bluntly. "It was a pleasant fiction we maintained because it made governance easier. But if you choose to continue working with us," Admiral Dong-hyun said, "that fiction can become reality. Gradual independence earned through cooperation and trust." "How gradual?" Zefkalis asked. 2 to 3 centuries, the Admiral replied. "Enough time to prepare for the threats that are coming. Enough time to build true partnerships instead of pretend ones." The Council members looked at each other. The choice was clear. Even if it wasn't what they had expected when the day began, they could accept humanity's authority and work toward eventual independence, or they could resist and face the same fate as every other species that had chosen conflict over cooperation. It wasn't really a choice at all, but at least now everyone understood the rules of the game they were playing. 3 hours had passed since Admiral Dong-hyun's arrival. The Council chamber felt different now. The air was thick with tension and the weight of decisions that would reshape the galaxy. Chairman Veltharion stood up slowly. His large frame seemed smaller somehow, as if the truth had pressed him down into his chair. "I need to ask something," he said. "If humanity has been in control all along, why maintain this charade? Why let us think we had power?" Taemin exchanged glances with Admiral Dong-hyun. "Because power without consent breeds revolution," he replied. "Humans learned that lesson the hard way on our own world." The main screen displayed images from Earth's history. Empires that had ruled through force alone. Dictatorships that had seemed unbreakable. All of them eventually falling to the anger of the people they oppressed. "When you rule through fear," Hyejin explained, "you create enemies. When you rule through deception, you create confusion. When you rule through partnership, you create stability, Sora finished. Admiral Dong-hyun nodded. The council system allowed each species to maintain their dignity while contributing to galactic peace. Your people believed they were governing themselves. In most day-to-day matters, they were. But the big decisions, the strategy department, head added, were always guided by human oversight. Wars prevented before they started. Trade disputes resolved before they caused famines. Research directed toward beneficial goals rather than weapons development. Counselor Thymos clicked nervously. So we've been puppets? Partners, Taemin corrected firmly. Junior partners perhaps, but partners nonetheless. Your contributions have been valuable. Your expertise in governing your own species has been essential. The difference now, Admiral Dong-hyun said, is that the partnership will be honest. No more pretending that council authority is absolute. No more humans pretending to be the junior species seeking permission for basic rights. Commander Minho's voice came through the speakers again. Council members, I should inform you that every government in the galaxy is currently receiving the same clarification that you are. This conversation is happening on thousands of worlds simultaneously. The screen split to show multiple locations. Parliament buildings, royal courts, military headquarters, and corporate boardrooms across the galaxy. In each one, humans were having similar conversations with shocked alien leaders. By the end of today, Minho continued, every government will understand the real power structure. Tomorrow, we begin building a more honest relationship. Counselor Zefkalis, who had been silent since his research facility was exposed, finally spoke. What happens to me? I committed crimes against humanity. The chamber became very quiet. Everyone looked at Taemin, waiting for his response. That depends, Taemin said slowly, on what you choose to do next. I don't understand. Your research into human biology, Admiral Dong-hyun explained, was motivated by fear. You were afraid that humans might be a threat to your species. That fear led you to make terrible choices. But fear can be overcome, Hyejin added. With knowledge comes understanding. With understanding comes trust. The main screen showed the rescued human prisoners. They were in a medical facility now receiving treatment. They looked weak, but they were alive. Our people will recover, Taemin said. The question is whether you will learn from this experience or repeat it. Zefkalis stared at the screen. I thought I was protecting my people. You were, Sora said quietly. You were afraid for them. Fear makes people do things they wouldn't normally do. The difference between protection and paranoia, Admiral Dong-hyun said, is information. You acted on incomplete information because you didn't trust humans enough to ask for the complete picture. What complete picture? Zefkalis asked. The screen changed to show human medical research, laboratories where human and alien scientists work together, projects aimed at improving health and longevity for all species. For 30 years, the research department head said, human scientists have been working to solve the genetic problems that plague your species. The reproductive issues, the shortened lifespans, the genetic diseases. We've made significant progress, she continued. But we needed willing partners, not test subjects taken by force. Zefkalis stared at the screen in shock. You've been trying to help us? Help everyone, Taemin replied. That's what humans do. We solve problems. We build better futures, but we can't do it alone. Admiral Dong-hyun stood up. Counselor Zefkalis, you have a choice. You can face justice for your crimes in isolation. Or you can face justice by working to make amends. What kind of amends? Work with our medical teams, the research head said. Use your knowledge of your species' biology to help us help you. Turn your research toward healing instead of harming. The prisoners you held, Hyejin added. They've volunteered to work with you. They want to help heal the damage that was done to all of us. Zefkalis's tentacles trembled. They would do that? After what I did to them? Humans forgive easily, Taemin said. But we never forget. Your choice will determine whether you're remembered as someone who learned from their mistakes or someone who was consumed by them. Chairman Veltharion looked around the chamber. What happens now? How does this new partnership work? Admiral Dong-hyun activated his own datapad. Starting tomorrow, each council member will be assigned a human liaison. These liaisons will help coordinate between human administration and local governance. You'll continue handling day-to-day affairs for your species, the diplomacy representative explained. But major decisions will be made jointly with human advisors. Over time, Taemin added, as trust builds and cooperation improves, human oversight will decrease. Eventually, true independence becomes possible. How long? Thymos asked. That depends on you, Admiral Dong-hyun replied. Species that embrace cooperation and demonstrate wisdom gain autonomy faster. Species that resist or cause problems remain under closer supervision. What about the threats you mentioned? Veltharion asked. The things coming from outside the galaxy? The screen showed long-range sensor data, dark shapes moving between the stars, still hundreds of years away but definitely approaching. That's why this conversation was necessary, the strategy head said. What's coming will require every species working together. No competition, no hidden agendas, no mistrust. When they arrive, Admiral Dong-hyun said, they'll find a united galaxy. Not a collection of squabbling species, but a single civilization dedicated to protecting all life. And that civilization, Taemin said, will be stronger than the sum of its parts. Human technology, Velkari mathematics, Korthian engineering, Silnathi art, Catherian agriculture, and yes, even Zefkalis' biological expertise. Sora smiled. Together we'll be something none of us could be alone. The council members looked at each other. The shock was beginning to wear off, replaced by something else. Not acceptance, exactly, but understanding. I have one more question, Veltharion said. If humans are so powerful, why do you need us at all? Timon's smile returned, warmer now than it had been all day. Because power without wisdom is destruction. Strength without compassion is tyranny. Intelligence without empathy is cold and empty. Humans are good at solving problems, Hyejin said. But we're not good at everything. We need other perspectives, other ways of thinking, other approaches to life. Besides, Admiral Dong-hyun added with a slight smile, ruling the galaxy directly would be exhausting. We'd much rather focus on exploration, research, and preparing for future challenges. So you see, Taemin concluded, this isn't about humans controlling everyone else. It's about everyone working together under human coordination, a symphony, not a dictatorship. The council session ended with new agreements being signed, new relationships being established, new trust being built, one conversation at a time. As the aliens left the chamber, they carried with them a new understanding of their place in the galaxy. They were not the rulers they had thought they were, but they were also not the helpless subjects they feared they might become. They were partners in something larger than themselves, something that would protect and nurture all life in the galaxy. And, for the first time in 50 years, humans could stop pretending to be something they weren't. The politeness mode had been permanently disabled, but in its place was something better. Honest cooperation between equals working toward a common goal. The day the Council witnessed humanity's true nature was the day the galaxy grew up. It was the day that separate species became one civilization. It was the day the real work began.